What is up, everybody? It is time for the latest Mondays in Middle-earth episode. I've got my Kindle here, and we are getting ready to do, quite possibly one of my most favorite chapters in the entirety of The Lord of the Rings, and we are getting close to the end. But this is Chapter 8 of Book 6, which is the Scouring of the Shire. Now, we've been talking about this chapter. Oh man, I feel like for the past 4 or 5 weeks, we've been edging closer to this, talking about this chapter, because it's one of the few chapters that I think pretty much universally every Tolkien fan out there wished they would have included in Peter Jackson's films. Now, most of us understand why it wasn't included, because it didn't pertain to the storyline of the hobbits taking the ring and destroying it in Mount Doom. It didn't kind of tie into that storyline. But in terms of the books, this is a great it's just an amazing ending, because it's a homecoming, but it's also the final chapter, so to speak, of these war heroes who went away, these timid little hobbits. And there's a lot in the chapter preceding this where we were talking about Gandalf having this conversation with them about how they're coming home and they're dressed in armor and raiments of these heroes, and they're no longer the timid creatures that they were, and people are going to look to them for leadership and guidance and everything else. And this is the chapter where all of that starts to happen. It's also a great chapter because a lot of what Sam saw in Galadriel's well, in her mirror. I don't know why I said well, but a lot of the things that he saw there have come to pass. There is a reference to this in Peter Jackson's films, in the sequence when Frodo looks into the mirror and he sees the Shire, being conquered by orcs and everything else. So at least there was a nod to the Scouring of the Shire in the films, even if we didn't get the actual scene. Because honestly, the Scouring of the Shire could be its own film. It really could, which is one of the reasons I've said in the past, for me personally, um, as cool as it was to get three really epic films, it would have been even better to see, you know, 3 seasons of a show where you get, just 10 to 12 episodes, 10, 12 hours dedicated to each. Oh man, it would have been the things that could have been, everybody. Anyway, I love Peter Jackson's films. I wish this would have made it in. I understand why it didn't. So let's get through to reading Chapter 8 of Book 6, The Scouring of the Shire. If you haven't already done so and you're new here, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. We do these every Monday, the Mondays in Middle-earth show. We started with the Hobbit. We went through the Fellowship of the Ring, the Two Towers. We're finishing up with the Return of the King. Once we finally wrap up with this and the appendices, we're going to get into the Silmarillion, which was part of the original plan. I was very naive when I said that I was going to do all of this leading up to the Rings of Power. I think I gave myself like 4 or 5 months before the release of the Rings of Power, thinking that I was going to be able to get through all of this before then. And here we are, a year later. That never happened. I was very naive. And, I thought at the beginning I was going to read, 6 chapters a week or something. And then I was like, I can't do that. So it's been 1 chapter a week. I did start off, if you go back to the very earliest episodes, I covered like 4 chapters per episode for like the first. It wasn't very many, like the first few episodes of the Return of the King, and then I very quickly got into individual chapters per week, because it was like, there's just too much to cover, and I don't want to, I don't want to sugarcoat, especially as you get deeper into the books. There's more lore and everything else. Anyway, we're 4 minutes in, and I haven't even started reading the chapter yet. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, support if you can. Super thanks on these videos. There's, pre-programmed amounts down below. Just click the button. YouTube has some numbers plugged in. You can plug in your own. Memberships here on the channel. Go over to the Patreon page. Links are down below. All those good things. So this is, we start off where Gandalf had told them that they might find the way, blocked with gates. And it says here that, it was after nightfall when they came to the Brandywine and found the way barred. And at the end of either end of the bridge, there was a great spiked gate. And they could see new houses on the other side of the river, all gloomy, 2-storied, and unshire-like. Something has changed while they've been away. So they bang on the gate until finally someone answers, "Hey, who's that? Be off! You can't come in. Can't you read the notice? No admittance between sundown and sunrise. And Sam's like, of course we can't read it. It's dark. Ooh, and Mary knows who it is. It's Hob Hayward. He says, what's a buckling to you like you doing here? You used to be on the Haygate. He's like, it's Master Mary to be sure, and all dressed up for fighting. Why, they said you was dead. Lost in the old forest by all accounts. I'm pleased to see you alive. Then stop looking at me through the bars and let us through. I'm sorry, but we've got orders. Whose orders? The chief, up a Bag End. Chief? What do you mean the chief? What chief? Oh, man. So the hobbits are quickly finding that things are not how they left them in the Shire. Oh, so right away, you know, kicking ass and taking names. Mary jumps off his pony and rips the notice off, throws it over the gate, and all the other hobbits are scared. They don't want to open the gate. And Pippin's like, "Come on," or Mary's like, "Come on, Pippin, let's get this gate open." So it says they climb the gate. The other hobbits fled. A horn sounds, and out of the bigger house on the right, a large, heavy figure appeared. "What's all this? Gate breaking? You clear out or I'll break your filthy little necks." And it's Bill frickin' Ferny, man. Oh, this is amazing. Um, Bill Ferny flinches. Give me the key. But he flung it at Mary's head, darted out into the darkness, and as he passed the ponies, one of them let fly with his heels and caught him as he ran. So it's Bill the pony giving a final farewell to Bill Ferny. That's awesome. Oh, good. Oh, the other thing you have to think about here is that Merry and Pippin grew. Like, they were younger to begin with, but they've come back, um, and they're all muscled and decked out for war. But also, Merry and Pippin had been off in Fangorn Forest and had grown like, what is it, 4 inches or something. So it says here, like, the hobbits who were there at the gates were very nervous about these four coming in, especially when two of them were uncommonly large and strong looking. And this is a reference to the fact that, Merry and Pippin have come back all, bulked up from their time in the forest. Oh, this is awesome. Man, so they're not allowed to eat. There's no food. Hobbs telling them they're not allowed to have pipeweed, at least all only for the chief's men. Um, so Sam's all like, you know what? This sucks. There's no welcome party. We're not allowed to have any beer. We can't smoke. There's so many rules and all this orc talk. I'd hoped to come home and have a rest, but apparently there's work and trouble ahead. So it's 40 miles from the bridge to Bag End, but it says here that someone made the journey in a hurry, as Frodo and his friends soon discovered as they set out along the road the next day, and as they were coming to Frogmorton at the floating log, they came to a barrier saying no road, and behind it a large band of sheriffs with staves in hands and feathers in caps, looking important but rather scared. And Frodo's like, it literally says, Frodo says, "What's all this?" feeling inclined to laugh. And the leader says, it says here he's a two-feathered hobbit. Ooh, so he's important. It is what it is, Mr. Baggins. You're going to be arrested now for gatekeeping and tearing up the rules and assaulting the gatekeepers and trespassing and sleeping in Shire buildings without leave and bribing guards with food. What else? And then Sam's like, I could tell you some more. Calling your chief names, wrenching to punch his pimply face, and thinking your sheriffs look a lot like Tom Pools. By the way, if you're not reading this, you should read the way it's capitalized here is very funny. The way it's all, the official rules that they have broken. And this goes into the importance that Tolkien had for the written word in terms of putting the emphasis where he wanted it, on these specific titles and things. And these are things that's it's hard to put these into, if you're writing a script, you would need to put emphasis on this for the actors who are delivering these lines. But still, some things aren't translatable. So the sheriffs threaten to arrest them, and Frodo and Sam and Merry and Pippin are literally roaring with laughter. And Frodo's like, Yeah, whatever. I'm gonna go where I want, do what I please. I'm on my way to Bag End right now on business. If you want to come along with this, that you're totally welcome to. Um, and the leader's like, "That's fine, Mr. Frodo, but don't forget I've arrested you." Frodo's like, "Well, I'm not going any further today, so if you want to escort me to the floating log, I'll be happy." Oh my god, this is amazing. Sam's grumpy here. If I hear "not allowed" much often, I'm gonna get angry. Ooh, and the guy, Robin, who he's talking to, is like, "Can't say I'd be sorry to see it. If we all got angry together, something might be done." Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. The chief's men are the problem. He sends them to round everyone up, drag them off to the lock holes. They took Will Whitfoot, the mayor. Oh, so this is the reference to the quick post service and special runners, which if you've ever played Lord of the Rings online, um, there's a quest you can do early on in the Shire. Um, and I don't remember where it starts. It either starts in Delving or Hobbiton, but you can actually do a quest for the post, and it's about delivering mail between these various destinations throughout the Shire as quickly as possible. And there is a time limit on it, and you carry a satchel. And if I remember correctly, you actually get a satchel, like a cosmetic satchel, as a reward, which is really cool. But there's a reference here to that, the quick post service. Basically, Merry and Pippin and Sam and Frodo are so used to marching. It says here they've done. Oh, I just missed it. Was it 14 miles? Um, and yeah, done nearly 14 miles with only one rest at noon. All their, the sheriffs who were arresting them, were all tired and footsore and couldn't handle the pace. And Merry and Pippin and Frodo and Sam were like, "Well, see you guys. We're continuing onwards," because they've been used to these marches now for quite some time, and they're in really good shape. And they travel on as the sun begins to fall. But this is when they come to Bywater, and this is when they get the first sort of, "Oh wow, things are really really bad here," because this is Frodo and Sam's own country here. So the hobbit holes on the bank of the northern side of the pool are deserted. Gardens were rank with weeds. A whole row of new ugly houses on the poolside where Hobbiton Road ran close to the bank, and an avenue of trees that had once been there had been completely ripped up. And as they looked up towards Bag End, they saw a tall chimney of brick in the distance, spewing out black smoke into the evening air. And yeah, it's not good. They finally reached the Green Dragon, was now lifeless and with broken windows. They were disturbed and saw a bunch of ill-favored men, squint-eyed and sallow-faced, like friends of Bill Ferny's back in Bree at the very beginning of the adventure. And Merry says under his breath, like many I saw at Isengard. So these guys have clubs and horns, and yeah, it's time for a confrontation here. Ooh, and this is when we get the first mention of Sharky. I told Sharky it was no good trusting those little fools. Some of our chaps ought to have been sent instead. Ooh, Merry threatens. Mary's like, "Yeah, what difference would that have made? We're not used to footpads in this country, but we know how to deal with them." Oh yeah. Frodo gives a speech here, which is things have changed since you guys left the South. You might not have heard. Dark Tower's gone. There's a king in Gondor. Isengard's been destroyed. Your precious master is a beggar in the wilderness. I actually passed him on the road not too long ago. And very soon the king's messengers are going to be riding up the Greenway, not bullies from Isengard. And this is when this guy stares at him back and smiles and says, "Beggar in the wilderness? Is he indeed?" King's messages. Snaps his fingers in Frodo's face. "That's for them. When I see one, I'll take notice, perhaps." Oh, this is when Pippin. Oh, Pippin's had enough. This is an awesome scene. His thoughts went back to the field of Cormallen, and here was a squint-eyed rascal calling the ring bearer little cock-a-whoop. He cast back his cloak, flashed out his sword, and the silvern sable of Gondor gleamed on him as he rode forward. "I am a messenger of the king," he said. "You are speaking to the king's friend, and one of the most renowned in all the lands of the West. You are a ruffian and a fool. Down on your knees in the road and ask pardon, or I will set this troll's bane in you." It says the sword glinted in the westering sun. Merry and Sam drew their swords also and rode up to support Pippin, but Frodo did not move. The ruffians gave back. Scaring Breland peasants and bullying bewildered hobbits had been their work. Fearless hobbits with bright swords and grim faces were a great surprise, and there was a note in the voices of these newcomers that they had not heard before. It chilled them with fear. And Merry says, "Go! If you trouble this village again, you'll regret it." The three hobbits came on then, and the ruffians turned and fled, running away up Hobbiton Road. Oh, that is such an epic scene. Like, yeah, get the hell out of here. Oh, this is awesome. Oh, I got all sorts of emotion with that. It was really good. Oh, it's Sam, and he's got Farmer Cotton and all his friends. All right. Oh, Farmer Cotton's like, all right, good. It's begun at last. I've been itching for trouble all this year, but folks wouldn't help. Come on, lads, Bywater's up. We must be in it. Oh, Rosie and Sam. I think you look fine, Sam. Go on now, but take care of yourself and come straight back as soon as you settle those ruffians. Oh, so it turns out I don't remember this at all. So Peregrine's dad didn't want to deal. He didn't want any truck with Lotho not from the beginning. Said if anyone is going to play the chief, it ought to be the right Thane of the Shire and not some upstart. So it says when Lotho sent his men, um, they didn't get him. The Tooks have got those deep holes in the green hills. The ruffians can't come at him. And it says if they do try to come on land, the Tooks hunt him down. They shot 3 of them for prowling and robbing, and after that the ruffians got nasty, and they keep a pretty close watch on Tooklin. No one gets in or out of it now, and Pippin's like, good for the Tooks. So he's off to the Smiles to Tuckborough, took half a dozen lads. So I like we're getting lots of, this is the wartime stuff that Tolkien had obviously spent a lot of time doing more, because we're getting lots of distances here. It's 14 miles here, 15 miles here. It's going to take this long for us to get there and back. This is all about the strategy of wartime and dealing with numbers and strategies and logistics. Oh, this is an epic scene here. Um, so they're out in the darkness. The ruffians are here with Farmer Cotton, and the ruffian leaders like, "What are you doing here?" And Farmer Cotton's like, "This isn't your country. You're not wanted." The ruffian leader's like, "Well, you're wanted anywhere. Take him, lads. The lockholes for him." So the men took a step forward and then stopped short. There was a roar of voices around them, and they were suddenly aware that they weren't alone. They were surrounded, and in the dark, on the edge of the firelight, stood a ring of hobbits that had crept up on them out of the shadows. Nearly 200 of them, all holding a weapon of some kind. And Merry steps forward and says, "We met you before, and I warned you not to come back here. I warn you again. You are standing in the light and covered by archers. If you lay a finger on this farmer or on anywhere else, you will be shot at once." It says here the leader knew too little of hobbits to understand his peril. Foolishly, he decided to fight. "At him, lads! Let him have it!" Um, He aimed a savage blow at Merry, who stood in the way, and fell dead with four arrows in him, and that was enough for the others, who gave up immediately. Oh, justice! Vengeance for the hobbits! So the mill's been turned into some sort of a smithy or, ironworks, pouring out filth into the water and spewing out smoke day and night. And they're talking about it's old Sharky. Real quick. He says, "I hope my Sam behaved himself and given satisfaction on the journey." And Frodo's like, "Perfect satisfaction. Indeed, if you will believe it, he is now one of the most famous people in all the lands." This is great. And they're making songs about his deeds from here to the Shire, from here to the sea and beyond to the great river. It says Sam blushed and looked gratefully at Frodo, for Rosie's eyes were shining and she was smiling at him. So Rosie's like, "Ooh, my hero! Ooh." All right, so they got a message from Tookland. The Thane has razed the entire countryside. The news is going like fire in all directions. Very nice. Merry came back in with less good news. There's a big band about 4 miles away coming along the road for Waymeet, it says. But the Tooks got there sooner, with 100 strong, with Pippin at their head. Nice. Now, the ruffians don't have any warfare leaders tramping along the lane, but Merry traps them here. These ruffians, however, could not be cowed so easily. 6 were shot. The remainder burst out, killed a couple of hobbits, then scattered across the country. Um, but the countryside is alive with hobbit hunters now, and they're going to hunt them down. Merry himself slew the leader, a great squint-eyed brute like a huge orc. Uh-huh. Said at least all was over. Nearly 70 of the ruffians lay dead on the field. A dozen were prisoners. 19 hobbits were dead, some 30 wounded. Um, so ended the Battle of Bywater, 1419, the last battle fought in the Shire, and the only battle since the Greenfields, 1147, up in the North Farthings. It says, in consequence, though it happily cost very few lives, it has a chapter to itself in the Red Book, and the names of all those who took part were made into a roll and learned by heart by Shire historians. Looks like it's time to deal with the chief. Yeah? Sorry, guys, close up. I had to resituate myself in my chair. It says here, it was one of the saddest hours of their lives as they rode up, the great chimney rising before them, and as they drew near the old village across the water, rows of new mean houses, the new mill in all its frowning and dirty ugliness, a great brick building straddling the stream which it fouled with a steaming and stinking outflow, and all along the Bywater road every tree had been felled. So it says here this is Sam's vision from the mirror, and even his vision had not prepared him for what they saw. The old grange had been knocked down, tarred sheds, all the chestnuts gone, banks and hedgerows broken. Bagshot Row is a yawning sand and gravel quarry. Bag End could not be seen for a clutter of large huts. They cut down the party tree, lopped dead and laying across the field. And as they are sitting here, a laugh from a surly hobbit. Don't you like it, Sam? You always was too soft. Ted Sandyman. You can't touch me. I'm a friend of the boss's, but he'll touch you all right if I have any more of your mouth. So, um, we get a glimpse of this in the film, obviously, when we see this, but this is very much, um, it's a homecoming. It's a chance for Tolkien to show how much the hobbits love their nature, um, and the fact that Saruman is just repeating the same thing he had done to Isengard. He's all about, the at this point steel and metal and the industrialization, basically the industrial era. And a lot of people have given all this, a lot of people have talked about how Tolkien would have liked this, Tolkien would have liked this, because Tolkien was all about, nature and everything else. um, there's something to be said for that, but I also think that there's nothing wrong with industrialization when it's done properly. It's when it's done without any care to the environment that it sucks. So they enter Bag End, and it's full of filth and disorder, it says. And it stank. It hadn't been used in some time. And Sam is like, this is worse than Mordor. Um, and Frodo says, yes, this is Mordor, just one of its works. Saruman was doing its work at the time, even when he thought he was working for himself, and the same with those that Saruman tricked, like Lotho. And as they're trying to leave, they turn around, and standing at the door was Saruman himself. I am able to welcome you home. And it says Saruman himself was there looking well fed and well pleased, his eyes gleaming with malice and amusement. And they realize that this is Sharky. So Frodo issues a command to Saruman and says, I pity you. Go at once and never return. But it says here that all of these hobbits had come out of the huts and in the village and everything else. And they're, gathering at the door of Bag End. And when they heard Frodo's command, it says they murmured angrily, no, don't let him go. Kill him. He's a villain and a murderer. Kill him. And Saruman looks at all their hostile faces and he mocks them. Kill him? Kill him? If you think there are enough of you brave hobbits. But I do not, he says, but do not think that when I lost all my goods, I lost all my power. Whoever strikes me shall be accursed. And if my blood stains the Shire, it shall wither and never again be healed. And some of the hobbits recoil, but Frodo says, don't believe him. He has lost all of his power, save his voice. But I will not have him slain. Don't kill him. Revenge serves no purpose here. And he just tells Saruman, get out of here. Just pick the quickest route out and just get thee gone. And Saruman starts yelling for Wormtongue. To the road again, worm. Saruman turned to go, and Wormtongue shuffled after him, but even as he passed, a knife flashed in his hand and stabbed swiftly. The blade... Oh, hang on. I misread that. Saruman turned to go, and Wormtongue shuffled after him. It says, but even as Saruman passed close to Frodo, a knife flashed in his hand, and he stabbed swiftly at Frodo. But the blade turned on his mithril coat that he's wearing underneath. And a dozen hobbits, led by Sam, leaped forward to the cry and flung him to the ground. Sam drew his sword, but Frodo says, no, even now. He has not hurt me. I do not wish him to be slain in such an evil mood. He was great once, of a noble kind that we should not dare to raise our hands against. He has fallen, and his cure may be beyond us, but I would still spare him in the hope that he may find it. Oh, this is crazy. So Saruman looks at Frodo and says there was a strange look in his eye of mingled wonder and respect and hatred. You have grown, halfling. Yes, you have grown very much. You are wise and cruel. You have robbed my revenge of sweetness, and now I must go hence in bitterness and debt to your mercy. I hate it, and you. Wormtongue hesitated and then followed, but Frodo calls out to Wormtongue and says, you do not need to follow him. I know of no evil you have done to me. You can rest here till you are stronger and go your own way. Oh, Saruman's not going to let this happen. No evil. Oh, no. Even when he sneaks out at night, it is only to look at the stars, right? But I did hear someone ask where Polotho is hiding. You know, don't you, Worm? Will you tell them? Ooh, says Worm killed your chief. Poor little fellow, your nice little boss. Didn't you, Worm? Stabbed him in his sleep, I believe. Buried him, I hope, though Worm has been very hungry lately. No, Worm is not really very nice. You had better leave him to me. It says here, a look of wild hatred came into Wormtongue's red eyes. You told me to do it. You made me do it, he hissed. Remember the power of Saruman's voice. Compelling people to do things, bewitching them. Ugh. You always do what Sharky says, don't you, Worm? Well, now he says, follow. He says he kicked Wormtongue in the face as he groveled and turned and made off, but at that, something snapped. And suddenly Wormtongue rose up, drawing a hidden knife, and with a snarl like a dog, he sprang on Saruman's back, pulled his head back, slit his throat, and with a yell, ran off down the lane before three hobbit bows, pew, 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 and Wormtongue fell dead as well. Ooh, this is creepy. I don't remember this at all. About the body of Saruman a gray mist gathered, and rising slowly to a great height like smoke from a fire, as a pale shrouded figure loomed over the hill. For a moment it wavered, looking into the west, but out of the west came a cold wind, and it bent away, and with a sigh dissolved into nothing. That is the end of that chapter, essentially. Next up is the Grey Havens. We're really close to the end. What a great chapter. Also, a dark chapter, all the way up until the very end. I mean, even in that last scene when Frodo's looking down at the body of Saruman and the face just like withers away, to this shriveled husk, and he covers it with the cloak, and they talk about, we're going to have to clean everything up from here on out. It's a homecoming, but it's not the homecoming that they wanted, and now it's time to, get the Shire back to working order, which how many chapters are there in... I'm going to look this up real quick. Because that says chapter 9, and I actually don't know how many I don't know if there's chapter 6. Oh, wow. There's only one chapter left. So next week is the last chapter of Return of the King, the Grey Havens. So we'll be wrapping up very soon because we still have to get through the appendices. And I don't know how many weeks. It might be one episode, it might be two. I don't know how many episodes I'm going to dedicate to the appendices because I don't want to get too bogged down in all of the history of things. We'll just see how that goes. Typically these run 15 to 20 minutes long. This has been a longer episode because it was a longer chapter. So we'll just see how it goes. Anyway, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Thanks to everyone for following along. Those of you who support, I really appreciate it. I've been doing this for a little over a year now, full time. Chris and I moved to the homestead in March of 2022, and the channel got monetized in mid-February of 2022 as well. So we're just beyond a year of been full time on YouTube, and the advertising makes a little bit couple hundred, few $100 a month. But the bulk of what pays our bills is support from the community. And that's done through super thanks on uploads, super chats on live streams and premieres, memberships here on the channel. All of those are ways you can support. So just click all the buttons down there, figure out which way works for you, whether it's $2, $50, whatever you can contribute. That keeps me on there, and it lets me know that you guys want to see more of this so I can keep doing these episodes and other things that I do here on the channel. We also have the Patreon page if you want to get involved with our fantasy series, our tabletop game, and our point and click adventure game. Join our Discord if you'd like, and hopefully we'll see everybody in the next episode. Until then, stay safe. Happy reading, everyone.